Alright.
Alright. On go. 3, 2, 1, go!
I missed. I was trying to go to episode discussion to get the last episode, try and remember what episode we're up to. But
episode 31.
I fumbled.
Oh, man. Why? Why every week we go...
Look, you can't... Look. Alright, just do it.
It's either you or it's the guest who was fucking up the clap sync. I mean, you had it before. Well, what happened?
Look, man, people change.
You dropped the game. You dropped your clap game.
Claps change. Hit it up. Let's go.
Okay. Alright. 1. Alright, on go. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2... Fuck!
What are you doing? Why? What the fuck?
You're fucking me up.
I didn't do shit.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Alright, we'll do a 3, 2, 1.
Well, 1, 2, 3.
What?
No,
wait, 1, 2, 3.
3, 2, 1.
There's 3, 2, 1, right?
Is it? I don't know.
Oh my god. Okay, it's 3, 2, 1. It's 3, 2, 1.
Alright,
we go and go.
Yeah.
Alright.
Hey, don't fuck up. Hey, don't choke then.
3, 2, 1, go!
Alright, we got it. We good.
Alright, welcome back to episode 31 of the Far Kingdoms podcast.
Hey-o.
Albert, what's happening?
What do you mean
Big
what's
things happening.
Big things happening?
Big things happening. Or big things in the works.
In the works. You think for the better? I think for the better.
Yeah, of course, for the better. Well, hopefully for the better.
Yeah. I mean,
there is the chance that it might not work out, you know, as good as we think it will work out. But you know, we're taking steps to improve the campaign.
yeah. I mean, let's do the recap first, and then we'll talk about the juicy bits, right? We gotta give them the tease, you know, make them sit through the boring content to get to the good content, you know.
Sure. Well, this might be a quicker.
It's gonna be real
recap.
quick. Yeah, it's gonna be real quick.
Yeah, it's gonna be real quick because I guess I'll do it because you did most of the recap last week.
Alright.
So this week we are still running up towards the Citadel. Not there yet. We're in the Market Square. We slashed through a whole bunch of different enemy minions, the dretches and the mains. And, you know, we roll damage, and we combine the damage and see how far we cut through the hordes. And everyone's describing all these cool moves that they're doing, and we decide to, you know, lean more on the flavor side instead of, like, the mechanical side. So you can roll with whatever weapon damage you want, but then you can flavor it however you like.
Yeah.
Even if, like, because Snow used his dagger, but in the flavor he used his bow, so we're playing very heavily into the rule of cool.
What did you think of that? Was that too overkill?
I think it was pretty good. It was alright. It was fun. I think a lot of people had fun with that. It might have just eaten up a bit too much time. I think it got a bit fiddly. You know, it got a little bit fiddly. But yeah. I think overall it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? Because there's no rule sets defining how to deal specifically with large hordes of monsters. I know that we rule it usually as groups of monsters, right? Where like 12 people are just one big unit, or 12 goblins are just one big unit that do all their rolls and whatever on the same turn. But there's nothing specific for like hundreds or even more than that. And I don't know, like I put a lot of thought into it, right? And the answer I came up with was, I have no fucking idea how I would roll this properly. What we decided in the end is that we all just roll damage, and then I roll damage, and we see how much you chunk through in a single turn. And I'm gonna be real here, it wasn't working. It wasn't working, you know? Like, I was doing the math, and I was like, oh, this is gonna take fucking forever.
The method that we were using in the session?
Yeah. Where it's just you just roll damage, and it's like, oh, this is gonna take fucking years to chunk through everything. So I was like, alright, fuck it. Everyone gets this really cool moment, right? Everyone gets a cool moment. They get to describe what they're doing. They get to have the moment of glory where they scythe through dozens of monsters at once. People are blowing shit up. You got the Twilight Radiance. I don't know why I said Twilight. The Radiance from Ravenar, who's the AC 130 Jesus guy, blowing people up from above. You got Tokal on his stag, and he's riding through, and he's got his mace, and he's chopping heads. You got Maple with the Shadow Sword, he's creeping around people's backs and slicing them in the flanks. You got Snow, who is bowing people from afar. He's doing trick shots and shit. You got Kenji, who's doing some cool ass monk shit with his sunblade, and he's chopping people up. Who did I miss? Storm. You got Storm.
Storm, yep.
Yup, you got Storm, and he's fucking people up. He's
You got Maple? Maple's there, right?
Yeah.
Maple, yeah.
People are fucking people up.
And you missed Eliwick, who was doing jack shit.
Look, she will have her moment in the spotlight when it comes down to it. Otherwise, she's just fucking useless, you know. She'll have a moment. She needs a moment. Otherwise, why the fuck is she here, you know? The dwarves are doing their thing. They got their shield wall. They're pushing forward. I don't know. It's a nice cinematic moment, right? And the mechanics. This is one of the things we're going to discuss, where we weigh fun versus semi-immersions versus like following the rules, right? Because rules is written, like none of that shit happens, right? Like that shit just doesn't happen in the rule set. But it's pretty fucking cool, and it would be really rad, and it just makes sense that you guys are strong enough to sight through these things. And I think it's a great moment for you guys. Anyway, it takes too damn long. So in the middle of it, I'm like, alright, I need to speed this up somehow. The Balrog / Balor is going to breathe fire. He's just going to breathe this massive wave of flame all the way down, and just pretty much finish the encounter. So you guys get to the boss fight like straight away. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it
no,
was it
actually,
more on the side?
I didn't notice that you were using it to now. Like in hindsight, yeah, it's a pretty good way to incinerate like all of the hordes.
Yeah, and get to the meat, get to the juice.
I didn't think of it. Like that wasn't clicking for me. It's like, oh, you know, that's just something he was doing, and
that's good.
Some of the other players might have picked up on it, but I didn't. All
right, please continue.
So you tricked me. Anyway, so we get to the Balrog. What are we going to call him?
We'll call him Balrog. I like Balrog.
The Balrog. We call him the Balrog. We get to the Balrog, and a fight ensues. I think basically he's doing a lot of damage to us. He's hitting us with breath attacks. Everyone's doing their standard, move sets. I think Kenji and Tokul go down quite a bit. I think Tokul or was it Kenji who like got rezzed from unconscious and then immediately beat back down.
It was both of them. They both did that. Yeah.
So it was a fairly tough fight, but I don't think it was. I don't think we were in any super bad danger there, because obviously he was pretty hurt by the time he was starting to knock people unconscious, so it was only a matter of time. But before he gets low enough for a kill, he decides to teleport back actually, and blow himself up like a big old balloon and stab himself, and blows up almost half of the platform that we're standing on. And the platform, the stalactite, is suspended by 4 chains, and he blew up 2 of them. So now the platform is tilting really fast. So we have to quickly find a way and get over. Most people just run and jump, except for Storm, who runs straight to the green tiled house to get all this loot. Which then, but actually, Maple does something really cool. He decides to use Wall of Force to stop the stalactite from tilting. And while he does that, people can loot, and everyone gets across. And I think that's the end of the session, right?
I mean,
or did we do it? We go a bit further on than that. They were like heading a bit further in, but that's it, right?
There was a bit of loot discussion, and then you guys
a lot of loot discussion.
Yeah, and then you guys go a little further in, and there are these skeletal dwarven hands that have been sticking out of this portcullis for a while.
That's
and it's
right.
like they've been trying to get away from something, or they were trying to escape, or they were trapped, or something along the lines of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just an ominous cliffhanger for the next session. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole session. I mean, we can go back and talk about some stuff.
Yeah, well, we could come around. But quickest recap ever?
Well,
recap
speedrun? The speedrun?
World
record?
Speedrun?
Any percent speedrun?
Yeah, I think that's less than 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, just about.
Less than 10 minutes.
Just about.
And usually we make entire podcasts out of these recaps.
Yeah, I mean, I can go on, and I do want to talk about some stuff as well. Specifically about the Balrog fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Balrog is a CR19, I think? Or no, yeah, CR19 creature, right? Challenge rating 19.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fucking high, right? And typically, this is me pulling back the blinders of the DM shield, me pulling up the shield. Typically, they don't have legendary actions, and also they don't have flame breath.
Okay.
So if it was the base Balrog, you guys would have fucked him up in like the first round. Like, no, not even joking, right?
Yeah.
So I had to buff him up somehow, at least to make the encounter better. And my question is, would you have rather the Balrog stay in his base form, not have any legendary actions or anything of the sort, and instead have a few minions that are running about, maybe an Alphashni, maybe a Balgura, or some other demons, some dretches and whatnot, come in and join the fight? Or did you like the epic boss fight where it's just one big guy versus the whole squad?
I think it really depends on the vision you're going for the Balrog. Obviously, him running around with minions makes him seem less powerful than you want him to be, right?
Yeah.
But the solo boss fight means he's super powerful,
And he is.
and he was a bit of a challenge, but he wasn't going to wipe the party.
I mean,
Actually, no, there was one point where I thought, okay, maybe we could die here.
I mean, it got really fucking close with some people. Like Kenji and Tokul, they got really fucking close to dying. Like, actually dying.
Yeah, well, we had Ravenna. We could save at least one of them, so it was fine.
Yeah, at least one, you know.
But whether or not I would prefer either or, look, you know my stance on combat. Quicker combat's better combat to me. I don't know if it would have been quicker with the minions. Something tells me that it probably wouldn't have been, because there's an extra entity that needs to take its turn. There's a bigger health pool. If you didn't tweak the Balrog health already. And yeah, it's just more time eaten up. But the legendary boss fight, I feel like, yeah, maybe I preferred that. Maybe I preferred a bigger boss battle. Obviously, the action economy is still going to be pretty whack. It's 6 versus 1. No, it was like 7 versus 1 in the last fight. So the action economy gets pretty nutty, and lopsided by a huge margin, even with the legendary actions, which is that's their entire problem that they're supposed to remedy somewhat. But I think I like it. I think I like that approach a little bit more.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed the fight from a DM perspective. Did you enjoy the fight from a player perspective, or was it kind of meh?
I think it was on the better side of meh.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Not particularly exciting, but I think it doesn't compare to at least the matron mother fight. I thought that fight was pretty fun, even though that was like the opposite of what I just said. Like, that had minions and stuff. Technically, you could say the drow were like the minions or something like that. But I think that was more so because we just kicked her ass. We kicked everyone. We just kicked ass in that fight, and it felt good to kick ass.
Do you think that's something in the future campaigns that we should implement more? Just easier fights in general, so that you guys are just having more fun just kicking people's asses? Because
I mean, we spoke about this before. There needs to be a balance, right? Otherwise, fights being too easy get boring, and fights being too hard get stressful. You want the best of both worlds. Obviously, there's no perfect world where you get that perfect balance, but there still needs to be some push and pull with the fights, I think.
Yeah, I think something I've become more alarmingly more aware of, right, is that my perspective on enjoyment is very, very different, I would say, to a lot of other people's perspective of enjoyment, at least for D&D settings or video game settings, right? Because when I play video games, I always bump it up to like at least near the hardest difficulty, right? Like I like the challenge, I like the grind, I like the kind of hardcore optimization, and I do subconsciously tend to emulate that in our D&D sessions, right? Where combat can be super fucking hard. Sometimes, like, you can't even win. Sometimes there's combat where straight up, if you try this, you'll probably die a terrible, miserable TPK death. But I realize, now more than ever, that a lot of people just don't straight up, like, they don't get that, or they don't enjoy that. And I think, I don't know, like, I feel like later on, or like before we do the revamp or whatever, while we're doing the revamp, we do another session 0, right? I think we need to do like the session 0 version 3.
Reevaluate what we want.
Yeah, and we actually need to think about it instead of just like going like ticking boxes, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we were very lazy with it last time.
Yeah, well, it's a big long list of really like specific questions, and a lot of the questions seem to repeat themselves.
Yeah, some of the questions are stupid.
I think we gotta look at the questions themselves and just like trim it down a lot to what that actually applies to us.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah,
so
we
at
still
least
need to answer it properly though.
Yeah, so it'll take up less time, and we can give more time to the questions that actually matter and to answer them properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, in terms of my enjoyment, like in video games, I also tend to enjoy harder games. I mean, I love Dark Souls, but that might be because you don't get any other choice. You can't really play Dark Souls any other way, other than it being just super duper hard.
Yeah.
But I think, like, especially for like story-based games, I want to, like, if I'm heavily invested in a story, I want to know what happens next. And if the difficulty is getting in the way of that, then that diminishes my fun. So sometimes I go kind of casual and ease it down a little bit so I can enjoy the story more and not have to slug through, all the difficulty stuff. I think difficulty, it's tricky to place difficulty because you want, a lot of people, I think, at least in my case, want high difficulty to like feel like they're being challenged, right? Not feel like they're just being punished or like a slog or something like that. And I think there are a lot of games where difficulty just makes combat or like whatever the gameplay loop like more spongy, so it takes longer, or tedious, or just downright punishing, and it sucks the fun out of everything. Right?
Yeah.
You want to feel like you're being engaged with the gameplay loop. I feel like difficulty should help you engage with the systems and all that stuff. But if it's not doing that, if it's making you just, clock out, then I think it's not good. But it's difficult. It's difficult to fine tune that.
Yeah, and that's definitely a conversation probably for another time, right? Like how to fine-tune video game difficulties. I mean, yeah, it's not a direct translation to how it works in D&D, right? Because in D&D you only get one shot, you only get one opportunity, And there's obviously no reload button. You can't go back. There's no checkpoints or whatever. And people are more aware of the consequences of their actions, right? The consequences if they fuck up in combat, something could actually go wrong. Like someone could actually die, and that'd be the end of that person.
Yeah.
And I think this is my personal opinion, but I think that in future campaigns, combat should probably just be toned down a lot. I think that's what I'm gonna do as well. I think I'm gonna tone it down, make it easier than it has been.
Yeah, but like a lot of the time you're hearing my opinion, and I don't like combat, but I feel like the majority of the players at our table actually like combat, like especially AK and probably Lewis. But Lewis says he likes everything, so I don't actually know. I don't know what his.
I think Lewis hates combat. I'm pretty sure he does not like combat.
I've never heard him say anything like directly ill about combat.
Oh, I have.
He does say he prefers. He would be okay with like mostly role play. So I don't know, right? So
no, I know Lewis does not like combat.
He doesn't like combat?
No. Yeah, he likes to make it fast in his one shots and more of a thing to get over with, and go straight back to the role play meat.
I know. I think Lachlan likes combat. I'm not sure of Aiden's opinion on combat, and I think Matt likes combat, but I think he likes combat when he kicks ass.
Yeah, and I mean, like, who doesn't, right?
Yeah,
and I feel like that's a pretty good solution, or at least some sort of I don't know, some sort of solution to mend some of the problems we're having, or some of the perceived problems we're having. I don't know, something to think about, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys beat up the Balrog. He downs 2 of you guys, does a lot of damage. He gets a nat 20 on one of his hits. He fucks people up. Mm-hmm. And then right before he's about to get taken down, he uses his teleport, which he actually, by canon, does have a teleport ability. I didn't make that shit up. He teleports back 60 feet to the bridge near the chains that are suspending stalactite. He blows it up, and the stalactite begins to tilt in a direction, and you guys make the mad dash for it. You guys pick up Tokul and Kenji. Most of you make the jump. I mean, all of you make the jump. Ravanar goes to save some of the straggling dwarves. Maple goes to get Eliwick, and they have the heartfelt moment where do you trust me, blah blah blah, and that's cute as fuck. And then Maple,
romance,
like you said, Maple pulls out the wall of force, right?
Yeah.
And that's impressive. I didn't think about this at all, to be honest. And that got me. I was like, huh. Well, I guess that's it, huh? I mean, the challenge is there's no more tilting thing. You guys can just walk across, and yeah. I mean, it was great. It's a great moment for him. Yeah, I think that just doing stuff like that makes the players really happy, right? Like surprising the DM and like messing up his plans. God damn it! I was thinking about it. And I was like, damn. I don't know why I didn't think of this. Like, why I didn't think Maple could just straight up do something like this. But I guess there's no ramification.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to think about. You know, there's a lot to think about, and you can't think of everything.
Yeah, it was great.
That's that little part where you don't think about it. That's where the players can use their brains.
Yeah, and it was a great moment. I was surprised. Everyone was surprised. It allowed Storm to get all the loot from the green tiled house. A lot of good loot as well. And you guys make it across safely. You guys get out the loot, you check it out, and then yeah, like before, you see the spooky skeletal hands, and that's the end of the session. And that went for what, 3.5 hours, 4 hours?
I'd say so. I think we started.
It was a longer one.
7:30 as usual. Maybe 7 to 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we went until 11:30, right?
Yeah. So pretty good.
Yeah, about 4 hours, I think.
Pretty good length, I would say. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's standard length. That's standard length. That's
it's a length. That's for sure.
It's a length.
It is a length.
I've accepted that these are the lengths of our sessions.
You're a traitor.
What do you mean I'm weak? What do you mean I'm weak?
You're weak.
I've always had sympathy for the longer sessions, alright?
Yeah?
But I've been beaten down so many times, and we're never gonna get a longer session like we used to anymore, so I've learned to accept what we have now.
The old
So I can
Kevin
move
would have
past it.
died on the hill. He would have died on the long
Well, you
hill.
never even supported me when I said, when I was raving on about the longer sessions. And
Yeah,
now
because I believed in you.
Now this is where you crawl out of your hole.
believed in you.
This is where you crawl out of your hole and say, "Oh, longer sessions were better." You know what? I can't support that. I can't empathize with you.
Wow. Looks like I'm the only one out of the OGs who still cares, huh? I get
You
it.
never cared.
I get
You
it.
only started caring until recently.
I get it. It's okay. You know what? People change.
He's a liar.
Sometimes not
He's
for
a
the
liar,
better.
guys. He's manipulating you guys,
Sometimes
alright?
not for the
He's
better.
trying to gaslight me, and it's not working. He's trying to gaslight all of you. Beware.
Let's just get to the
Albert the manipulator.
meat of what we want to talk about, right?
Yes, of course. The very thing that started, last week? We started a very pivotal conversation about our D&D experience
Will
last
change
week.
things forever.
Yeah, we made a realization. Well, I kind of realized this a long time ago. But I didn't want to admit that maybe I enjoyed Pirates a bit more than I enjoyed the party dynamic in Axia. But then when I brought it up, you were kind of feeling the similar way, and I thought maybe it's not just me. And that's where the discussion happened.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with that, right? Because I try to play the way that I think a good player should play, right? I try to, when I play Boulder, I try to engage a lot with most characters, and I try to, mess around with the DM. We lean into his plans a lot, even though we pretend we're not going to. And I try to play off a lot of the character dynamics. And I don't know. It's wow. I'm really patting myself on the back, right? But I'm just saying that I was in that pirates party too. And it was a good party. Like, I don't know. Boulder was. He's a very good character.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's as good as the very short-lived Professor Amelia Boulder Dusty. Like, I feel like that had lots of potential, but we only played like 2 sessions of that. But this is pretty close.
Yeah,
this is pretty close to that.
Look, it's weird because, like we said, it's the one-shot campaigns. They aren't taken as seriously. They have a much more chill vibe, and you kind of just do whatever. And I don't know. I guess we'll talk about it, but I think that's maybe what's better for us. Where it's just like a chill thing. There's no need for serious consequences where the world's about to end or X loved one is taken captive by a bad guy and he's threatening her life unless you do Y thing. I don't know. Maybe that's just not up our alley. I know I would enjoy something like that, but maybe for the rest of us, it's just not it. It's just not the vibe we want.
Well, just because we're saying that's not it right now doesn't mean that it can't turn into that and be genuinely fun. Like, we've had some great moments on Pirates. We've spoken about the Vathlo fight and the Fireball Massacre, which are great moments. And I think especially with the Vathlo fight, there was some genuine bonds being made between the party members, and it was quite serious. And that was one of the most fun I've ever had during DD.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the the overall story itself, right? That's more us not caring about the consequences, or at least not thinking about the consequences as much, and doing things we usually wouldn't do for the sake of...
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it does, but I'm saying maybe, yes, we loosened the stranglehold on the whole idea of it being hyper-realistic and, adhering to this story that, the DM's meticulously handcrafted. So these more organic moments come forward, and they drive the campaign, which is what D&D should be about. The players driving the campaign, or the characters driving the campaign.
Yeah, that's a good point. But has it?
What do you mean?
Has the Valflow encounter or the tavern brawl driven anything other than different character dynamics by the end of it?
I think just by the nature of the campaign itself, it's pretty railroady. So I don't entirely know for sure if that was an actual campaign, how that would play out. I think because Lewis only gets to run it every so often, and so he has to make certain decisions that will make the one-shot experience more succinct. Because they're essentially one-shots, right? But they're connected.
Yeah.
In an actual campaign, maybe I think in the longer term, I think it would have a bigger impact.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah, we just haven't had a lot of exposure to that, so I can't say for sure, but I think that it's a good direction.
I mean, yeah. That brings us back to what we're talking about before, where we had this massive discussion with the rest of the party, and we all agreed that there is potential. Well, let me see if you agree with me here, but what we came down to was that there is potential to have more fun in the main campaign. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we identified the problems as, first of all, perhaps the campaign tone is too serious, or the campaign tone isn't a correct fit for our current party, or the current players.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Possibly.
Is it correct or not correct?
I think it's very possible that that's the case. I don't know if that is correct. 100%.
Okay. It's one of the possibilities, right?
Yeah.
Another one of the possibilities is that perhaps it's the other way around, where the party just isn't the right fit, or that they aren't cohesive enough, or there isn't enough synergy between them to have the same enjoyable experience that we do in Pirates. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's also very possible. Actually, that might be more correct than the other thing, because we've experienced, at least you and I, feel like that might be part of the issue.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like it's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me from the outside, right? I'm DMing, right? So I can't. It's very hard for me to chime in on whether I think X or Y character mesh well together, or that they have good synergy or whatever. Because I'm not one of those characters. I'm not in the party. I'm just kind of watching from the outside, right? So as an insider, do you think that that's correct? Like, it's there just isn't the synergy. There's not the same feel, the same vibe.
Definitely. There's definitely a big difference there. I feel like a lot of the Blood Brothers dynamics doesn't feel like it's been genuinely earned. Do you understand what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel genuinely developed.
Okay.
I feel like for some of it, I have to force my character, Snow, to just be, to like these other characters, right?
Okay.
But it doesn't feel like the relationship built up in a way that would be realistic. It they came in, and we're talking to them. Oh, suddenly we're friends. That's kind of what I feel like a lot of Axia has become.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
Do you think the onus is on me, the DM, for not encouraging more moments like that? Or do you think it's more on the players for not interacting with one another enough to for those moments to happen more often?
It's very hard to tell, because there are some good moments. I feel like a recent one I can think of is when Snow opened up a little bit to Storm about what happened before, back when Axia was just the OG3, right?
Yeah.
And that felt like that was like, okay, that the relationship was building in a genuine way. And that's why I enjoyed it so much, because it felt like that the character was actually bonding, and it didn't feel fake.
Okay.
But those moments happened so randomly, and so, I hate to say rarely, but they happen so rarely as well, that it might be because it might be a number of different things. I don't think that you having facilitating making these moments happen is a big part of the problem. I think it's probably more on the players, being less proactive, but like again, I feel like the atmosphere might play into that. Like it's very undefined in my head what the actual problem of that is, and maybe a fresh start is needed, like a new perspective, a new like lens to look through might be a possible solution to that.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's weird, right? Because in our discussion, Aiden says that the environment sort of discourages these conversations to happen, right? You're in this rather dangerous place, the Underdark, where enemies could attack at any moment, so it's very hard for you guys to chat with one another in a, I guess, a meaningful capacity, right?
Yeah. I'm inclined to somewhat disagree with that. I feel like that's way too short term in terms of thinking. We've spent a lot of, because the environment where the characters are at any given moment changes a lot, and we spend an amount of time in one environment, then we go to a different environment, and so on and so forth. So it's always changing, right? So I don't feel like that's a part of the problem, like the overall problem that we're facing in terms of like warranting talking about rebooting characters, restarting the campaign, that sort of thing. Because if you look at the moments in Huria, it's kind of like the safe hub area, and there still isn't a lot of the genuine relationship character bonding moments, even when we're in a safe city, a safe zone. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you picking up what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I said something similar, right? Like, even outside of the Underdark, there still wasn't many of these moments, right? They're very rare.
Yeah.
So, what do you think I, as the dungeon master of this group, of this campaign, can do to encourage more of the behavior? Or is there anything I can do, or is it there's nothing I can do? Like, what do you think?
Nothing really comes to mind. Obviously, trying to facilitate more moments could help. But then if the players don't grab at those moments, if they don't take advantage of those moments, then what good does that do, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the onus now, the opinion is forming in my head as I speak, does rely on the players being engaged with each other. Right? And if you've said that before. You've mentioned that before.
Yep.
But if they don't feel genuinely engaged and feel like they have to force themselves to do it, it becomes hard, right? So then they are less likely to do it.
Okay. I wanna analyze. I wanna talk about let's go back to the Vaflo moment, right? Because you see this moment as this great, genuine, good moment between players, and like one of the better moments in any campaign we've had so far. Correct?
Yeah. At least in my opinion, that's like top 10.
Okay, so for context, the Vaflo moment is we met this pirate lady called Vaflo on this island, and she had a chat with Kevin's character, a tabaxi named Dusty, and she admitted to skinning and hunting tabaxi at some point in her life, right? Like for sport, right?
Yeah.
And Dusty is like, what the fuck? Fuck you. I'm gonna kill you at some point. And after a little while, there's a confrontation where Dusty is like, well, I really hate this character. I'm gonna attack her after this other combat. And Boulder, a crewmate of Dusty, is like, well, I don't really know what's going on here, but if my crewmate is attacking somebody, I'm gonna help the crewmate, right? And one of our other crewmates, Demakos, is like, well, hold on, no. That girl's really attractive. And it wouldn't be right for us to attack her and kill her. I still don't get why. But anyway, there is a confrontation between these two parties, Boulder Dusty versus Vaflo, Demakos, and some other guy. I forgot his name. The captain guy.
Blow or Blue or what's his name?
Blor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Blor.
Yeah. And there's a confrontation between them, and there's literal combat between these two parties, right? And it comes down, it gets close because people are fighting for their lives, and eventually Dusty does end up murdering this Vaflo chick, and the combat stops, I guess, after we defeat them, right? I forgot why. I guess because Demakos is convinced to stop helping, or he just gets defeated. I forgot, to be honest.
I think we kill Vaflo. We basically kill Vaflo before Demakos could do any sort of amount of damage. But you might be right in saying Demakos maybe having a change of heart at the last moment.
Yeah. And the aftermath of that is that there is this new dynamic between these characters where Boulder finds out that, oh, what the fuck? Some of these crew members aren't loyal to the crew. Like, what? Like, it's supposed to be it's supposed to be family to the end, where we back each other up regardless of whatever the fuck we're doing. How can you betray us for this stranger you met, like, yesterday or whatnot? And there's this conflict, and it's great because it's purely between, at this point, it's purely between these characters, right? And that's the most memorable part for you, right? It's conflict between genuine, natural player characters, right?
And you think about it. Let's break that down even further, right? That whole moment started because of Dusty's ideal, or his pride for his own race, that, you know, he needs to seek vengeance, and that's not the first time he's killed someone over, you know, them supposedly treating his race badly. Remember, there was some elf chick before that at the dwarf carnival or something, on the dwarf island, and she said that, like, oh, she hated Tabaxi. She said something, right?
Oh, right, the bank
Tabaxi.
manager.
Yeah, and Dusty was like, oh, I hate you. I'm gonna kill that bitch later.
Goddamn.
And he does.
Yeah.
And this is a similar moment, and so you could maybe hold it to that whole moment started from a strong ideal that Dusty holds within himself, and then the conflict later is driven by Boulder's strong ideal that the crew should be number one. The crew should be above all else, right?
Yeah. It's fair to say all that, right? And it's fair to say that us as the people playing these characters were the ones that created the moment. But it's not entirely true, right? Because if Lewis, the DM at the time, didn't come up with this Vaflo chick and that she was this Tabaxi hunter, that the whole conflict would have never happened in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely some sort of input from the DM that helps these moments happen, and in a genuine fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to pinpoint, like, how much of it should go to the DM and how much of it is on the players. And this is what we're trying to find. How do we recreate these moments so that similar things happen, right?
You see, but Lewis said that off the cuff. He wasn't planning to, like, I'm going to poke Dusty's buttons. He just said that.
Yeah, and that makes it kind of, like, even better, right? It makes it even more genuine that, like, it was never meant to happen. It was just something that happened.
And also, like, this might go to reinforce your point about tone being, you know, a part of the problem of Axia, right? We felt that it was okay for us to start a big fight in, you know, causing a great schism between the party members, like, because we cared less.
Yeah.
So maybe you are right. Maybe you are right in terms of, like, the consequences and stuff like that.
Yeah. And outside of that moment, it's very hard to pinpoint times where the similar levels of camaraderie, of intensity between these characters, right? Because before that, we're just kind of messing around on the crew. We're just having fun. We're just doing stuff, right?
True.
And maybe it's similar to our campaign, because I don't know. I don't know. Like, I literally have no idea how to make stuff like this happen more. Maybe it's my inexperience as a DM, or we just haven't had those moments enough, because I don't know, like, is it the serious tone? Do we give off too much of a serious tone where we shouldn't be fucking around? Because that, to be fair, there are moments where we do fuck around, right? Like with the orphans and the cute orphan things and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, apparently it's not ideal. It's not the one. It's not what we're searching for. I don't know. Would you say that Snow sees, like, Tokal as, like, an actual, like, brother, like someone he would willingly, like, go down for, like, do some, like, evil shit, or like
I think
die for?
I think in an ideal world, yes. that should be the way it is, right? Because they've been through a lot together. But at the same time, they're two very different characters, which I think have a personality clash, right?
Okay.
Because what am I trying to say here? Tokel is very impulsive. Sometimes he just does things that he feels like he needs to do, right? He's very, I feel like he can be very emotionally driven, while Snow is very intellect driven. He's trying to think through things. He's trying to keep the status quo. He's trying not to rock the boat. He's trying to keep his head down. But he's also a guy that tries to make plans, which is opposite to Tokel, who doesn't often make plans. So I feel like those two characters in real life would actually hate each other. So maybe the party dynamic at the start of Axio is more realistic than the party dynamic that we have right now, right?
Realistic, but not fun, right?
Yeah, also, but yes, having said that, it's not fun. It's not fun. So we tried to make it seem like that they're friends. And at times, it does feel like that. It does feel like that they're genuinely like two unlikely friends, right?
Yeah.
Should they be as close as brothers? I don't know. But unlikely friends? Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Okay. This reminded me of a different moment, like earlier in our campaign, where Tokel, it was Tokel and Oasis, and Tokel went to go talk to some of the blue dragonborn, his aunt, right? His in quotation marks aunt from the Ivory Vale, and they're this mercenary.
The aunt, but not really his aunt.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Aunt, but not really. But they're this mercenary band called the Cobalt Cutlass. That they have their own ship and they do these mercenary missions and they come back every so often. And there's an interaction between both Tokel, Oasis, and there's a crew. And the aunt is like, well, would you die for your crew? And then Tokel was like, straight up, yes, right? I'm pretty sure he gave like a straight up yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a moment where she's like, well, really, because she goes up to one of her crew members and she just fucking kills him like straight on the spot. No, nobody moves a fucking inch. And I don't know, I feel like there was like I forgot why, but there was some kind of hesitation, and then this comes to a climax when it's Oasis and Tokel and they're talking to each other and like, oh, I don't know if I would really actually die for you. I forgot how it actually went, but it just reminded me of that. And I don't know, is that not like a good genuine moment between people, or is it just forgettable, right? Do we just put too much celebration on the Vaflo thing, and maybe it's not that big of a thing because I don't know.
It's very possible.
Maybe it's just because we, as the two players, care more about that one because we were the characters.
Yeah. It's very possible that we celebrated too much. I mean, we haven't played the Pirates campaign for very long, and Lewis did say that it's possible that it's fun for that moment, but would that party dynamic work in the longer term? I think yes. I think at least it would be somewhat better than the Axia party right now. But I'm very open for it to be wrong, right? I'm very keen to see if I'm actually wrong about all of this. But what I'm glad that we're taking a step back from the campaign and seeing if there's something that could be improved nonetheless.
Yeah. I'll add session 3.0 to the list of things to do. We should probably go through the options, like the ideas that were kind of given out during the discussion, right?
Yeah.
You want to go down the list?
I think you started it. Can I just say also that I think for at least some of the discussion, it felt like people were getting fixated on one specific thing, and this one specific thing was what was causing all the issues, whether they were intentionally doing that or not. I just want to say that, like, this problem that we're having, or this problem that we're seeing, or this issue that we think, or, you know, this thing that we think could be improved, the reason why it couldn't be better could be any number of these things, right? And it could be any portion. It could be like 90% tone and then like 10% all the rest of the stuff. Or it could have been like, 40% just the environment we're in. Or it could have been like 20% the backstory, Or, change those percentages around, and that's the problem. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
So, I just want everyone just to see the bigger picture, right? It could be a lot of different things, because there's a lot of moving parts to a campaign, right? Yeah. And we still can't really define, like, how we could improve it for sure. We're just throwing stuff out there and seeing if it sticks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Do you have an example of like what was honed in on as like the main problem, or like, at least what people are fixated on?
I feel like everyone had their own suggestion, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it sounded like what they were suggesting was like the root of the cause, right?
Okay.
And I said so in the thread that it could be, like, I think specifically Aiden was saying the environment, you were saying it was the characters, and I'm not saying that you were like fixated on that, I'm just using that word, but and I said after both of you gave your opinions that it could be both of these at the same time, like not just either or, it's not binary, it's not one or the other, not black and white.
Yeah, I also said that.
Yeah.
Okay, alright, cool. Do you want to go down the options?
Yeah. So we've narrowed it somewhat to 6 options, or, possible symptoms of the cause, I think.
Yep.
So, number 1, we've touched on a lot already, change of tone. So that's first and foremost something that you brought up last podcast and during the thread, that possibly a change of tone is what is needed to possibly make the campaign better. All right.
Okay.
And we talked about that a lot, so I don't think we need to
go
any further into that.
For a quick example, it would just be like a more lighthearted, less consequences tone, right? Like more joking around. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
Next.
So number 2 was change of environment, right? I'm not sure if this was like a quote-unquote option, just like Aiden was just throwing out there that this could be what was causing the issue.
Okay, what do you mean by change in environment, though?
I think what he meant is that we're currently in the Underdark, which is what you were saying before. We're in the Underdark right now. It's a very hostile environment. Everything's super tense. It doesn't leave a lot of room for these characters to talk to each other. So, but if we were in, like, Huria, then that wouldn't be as big of an issue. I think is what he was getting. Like, the character's immediate location was what was affecting the roleplay. I think that was what he was getting at. If I'm wrong on that, Aiden, please correct me. But I feel like just reading from what he said in the thread, that's what he was getting at.
Okay, let's talk about this a little bit more, because I think 1 and 2 go hand in hand, right? They're very similar, tone and environment, because one affects the other, and they're both correlated.
Right.
You and Lewis have both said before that the Haycock Soul House one-shot was one of the better one-shots we've had, right?
Yes, and I still stand by that.
And that one-shot had a very lighthearted, mess around, not many consequences tone to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's something you would like to see in a future campaign, or do you think that's something that's better suited for that one-shot in particular?
Yeah, I would like to see more of it, to see if that is actually, like, what we think is more fun.
Okay. Alright. Because I was just wondering if... I don't know, because Lewis and I... everyone's DMing style is very different. Or at least there's differences between everyone's, right?
Right.
And I was just thinking maybe I'm just not able to provide the same kind of crazy cuckoo campaign. I just wouldn't like to do that, but I guess we have done it before in certain scenarios, so maybe... I
mean, that was your one-shot.
Yeah.
Happy Haycock's whorehouse?
Yeah, that's the
that one. Was your one-shot. Yeah. So...
it's possible.
I think also, like, that was just full of references from the OG part of the campaign.
Yeah, and Lewis didn't get any of them.
Yeah, because that was like... He's just started playing at that part. at that point. But yeah, it was fun. And I think also, yeah, the character dynamic for that was pretty fun as well. Hans and Dorf, that's also an iconic duo. Oh man, I forgot about Hans and Dorf until now.
One of the better character dynamics, I think. I don't know, because those two were written out as adopted brothers, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's what it comes down to as well? Like there's already a pre-existing bond between characters that allows them to flow off each other much more easily?
I think that goes without saying. I also think that a lot of that was we improv a lot of it. I feel like me and Lewis are fairly strong improvisers, so we can bounce off each other really well. I think sometimes when you try to improv with people who aren't prepared to improv, it can fall flat really quick, right?
Yeah.
And it can be pretty discouraging when you try to bounce things off someone and they just bounce off. They don't come back,
yeah.
right?
It doesn't
slides,
yeah.
right?
Slides down
right.
the wall.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, so if we were to start a new campaign, what kind of pre-existing bonds would you like to see between new characters?
I mean, you could go with any number of things.
Yeah, like
an obvious one. An obvious one would be like familial, right? I'm just listing things, right? I don't know what I would really prefer.
Yeah.
But familial is an easy one. You could do brothers or cousins or whatever, father and son even, right?
Yo, that would be kind of wild.
That would be an interesting one.
That would be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or yeah, mother and daughter or father and daughter, whatever, right? A parental relationship,
yeah.
Or even like uncle and nephew or whatever. What other permutation you have? Like aunties and stuff like that.
So that
could be interesting.
Okay.
That could be interesting. Then you could have like colleagues, co-workers. Say like you're in a mercenary band, you've known each other for very long, right? And you may not like each other, but you have respect for each other, right? And you got each other's backs when things get rough, right? That's an interesting dynamic.
That is pretty good. Yep.
A really obvious one is you're just friends. You're friends, you've grown up together, or maybe childhood friends to narrow it down some more. You've grown up together, you've done everything together.
This brings me back to Matt's one shot, right? Where it was
Oh, that's another good one.
Well,
that's another good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had I can remember my one, which was like a really there was a name that everyone was like, that is like way too complicated to say. Let me see if I can remember. It was like Jocambo, Johajda, or something like that, but shortened to Jojo.
It was a Jojo. Yeah, Jojo. That's right.
Jojo, right?
Yeah.
Who was a Tabaxi druid. Then you had
Tugrod, which was a goblin.
Goblin, right?
Warlock. Goblin warlock.
Yes, true. And then you had a paladin.
Rainier playing.
Rainier. Human paladin, I think.
Yeah, it was a pun. It was like Sir something. I forgot. It was some kind of pun. It was some dumb pun. It was great. And they were all childhood friends, right? They all grew up in the same town, or were they like orphans together or something?
Well, I think the thing with that one, we all grew up in the same town. We were living like outside the castle, and the princess who was like had gone missing, who was the premise of the one shot, was also our childhood friend. And at this point, right before the one shot, we were like writing our backstories, and we'll write something. I think Rainier was like very good at like tying together the writing. I think I submitted mine, wasn't related to anything. Basically, Jojo had a brother who went missing, and then and then Jojo was like, okay, I'm like too depressed, so I'm gonna go out and just like hide in the woods, and that's how he like became a druid and stuff like that. So he like went into self-exile, and then you like based your character off like Goblin Slayer or something like that. I won't get into the story, but I can't remember your
Tuggerot was he had the classic edgy backstory, right, where the General Grador and his band of orcs came by to his goblin village and pretty much murdered everybody, including his mother, right? And this voice spoke out to him from the void, offering him power in exchange for his life once he completed his revenge against General Grador. And he became a warlock who, I think he was like a mercenary for a while until you guys come back together at the behest of the missing princess, and the General Grador has taken over the castle, and it's like this one final reunion sort type thing. That was great.
And then Rainier's paladin was basically like bringing everyone together. It was like the "you son of a bitch, I'm in" kind of montage. That's what his backstory is. He would go around and like recruit Tugrot, right?
Tugrot, yeah.
And then like there was this, I remember specifically there was this, like, because I made up some tabaxi tea candy in my backstory just for flavor, and he used that, and like his paladin found my character and he tossed him a tea candy and he's like, "Hey, we got to find the princess." It was a lot better. It sounded a lot better than that, but it was like that, right?
It was cool.
And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm hyped." And I remember everyone being so hyped about this one shot. Ultimately, the one shot was questionable. A lot of questionable moments, but memorable. It was very memorable. Nobody forgets Urethra, right? Nobody forgets
Urethra. Classic Urethra. That bitch.
Yeah. Very, very questionable decisions made in that campaign. But it was still a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
I just think we hyped it up a lot, right? And the expectations got out of hand. But it was like the dynamic was really fun for that as well.
Yeah. Like, do you think that's where we made our critical error? That we were using characters that had no pre-existing relations, like from the get-go? Do you think that's where we stumbled along the way? Like that was just something like a growing cancer that just spread.
I think making backstories intertwined definitely alleviates the issue. I don't think it fixes it outright, but it definitely alleviates it. I think it will definitely help. Okay. And I don't think it would hurt at all if we did something like that.
I'm kind of getting hyped for campaign 2 now. God damn.
Oh, campaign 2.
Yeah.
So, anyway, make backstories more detailed, and we can add on to that / intertwined. I think intertwined is a must, right?
Yeah. It's
a must at this.
It has to be. This goes into it, right? Because some of our players are very dedicated to playing their character the way they think their character should be played, right?
Yes.
And if they were to play the character the way the characters think the character should be played, they wouldn't interact with half the party, right? Like it wouldn't go smoothly.
Yes.
Right. If you have to force yourself to play your character in a way you don't think your character should be played, it's just not going to be fun, right?
Yeah.
Like I think
I know firsthand. What that's like.
I think you and Lachlan have this problem, right?
Yes.
Because Lachlan, he talked about how he enjoyed playing Billum more, not because he was forcing himself to do these fun things, or he was doing fun things because of the environment, but because Billum is just this kind of chaotic, standoffish character, right?
He's predisposed to be doing that stuff, so him doing crazy stuff is immersive in and of itself.
Yeah, and Maple is sort of the opposite end, where he's more introverted, and he would be less inclined to do the cool, crazy stuff, right?
When you think about it, Maple has a lot of Lachlan in him, who can be quite shy and reserved.
Yeah, and he definitely plays into that. And I don't know, Lachlan, if you're out there, do you think that this kind of playstyle inhibits, like, you think Maple's personality inhibits a more fun that you could have? I don't know.
Well, instead of shouting into
the void
and him responding after the fact, let's judge him from the outside.
Fuck him up.
And what do you think? Do you think the way Lachlan plays Maple, or the way Maple is played, is conducive to a good time?
For him? No.
Yeah.
I think he has less enjoyment playing Maple, and I think because he likes playing the character the way he thinks the character should be played, it inhibits the amount of fun he can have, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he likes to play him that way, but I think if he were to choose, he would prefer to play it that way, because that is like, that's been cemented as the character now.
Yeah.
And it would feel weird to do it differently.
It would be wrong
right?
to do it differently, which
goes into what Lewis said, like during like a reboot of the campaign, right? He straight up said, you know, I'm not going to rewrite Storm. I'm just going to put in a new character, right? No love for Storm, no reverence for Storm. He just gets chucked out, right? He gets chucked out. No, I'm kidding. I know Lewis really likes Storm as a character, but I get what he's saying, right? It would feel wrong for him to alter Storm in such a way that like he's not the same character. And to be fair, Lewis has changed the way Storm has acted, but I think the difference is that he's canonizing that as, you know, Storm developing as a character, which is different from him being revised as a character.
Yeah, just like magically changed to a different personality.
Yeah, and you mentioned before we started recording that Lachlan would probably also play a new character as well.
Yeah, I think they're both very keen to play these new characters.
Yeah. Were you going to say something before I jumped in there?
No, I think I was about to say the same thing, honestly. I think I agree with you that it's very weird, it's very off-putting changing a character that already exists within your head to fit a different narrative, right?
Yeah. Well, look, genuine shout out to, like, genuine call to get in the comments. For me, well, I should say the question first. Would you play a new character, and would it, like, and if so, would it be vastly different from the character you're playing now? Or would you try your hand at revising your old character and see if that it could be better? Because for me, I feel like Snow has a lot of potential, and I also feel like Snow's story hasn't been fully fulfilled yet. Like, I feel like there's a lot of potential there. You said that there's a lot of stuff you have up your sleeve, and I want to see that stuff, right? And I want to see Snow's journey, you know, come full circle, or, you know, to get the juice, right? I want the juice.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Obviously, I would make some major changes to Snow. Even though I did like a soft reboot of him before, I think more drastic changes need to be made to his personality for him to be more inclusive, more lighthearted, more fitting to be traveling in a party. And I think like a lot of people like Snow, but I think obviously he's also part of the problem. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
the way he's being played, the way I'm playing him right now is also part of the problem.
Yeah, you play very outside of the party. You play the cool, logical version, and sometimes that's not conducive to a more fun atmosphere.
Yeah, and I totally see that. Which is a very old problem, because it used to be a lot worse. It used to be way worse. Way worse. But it's still, I'm seeing now that it's still a prevailing issue that needs to be looked at. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board with Snow. But I would still like to use Snow. I would still like to, like, grab major parts from his backstory and stuff like that. And so you don't totally have to trash what you've planned for Snow, if there's a lot there. But
it's weird, right? Obviously, everyone else, if get in the comments, answer that question. You know, give us some interaction. But I think I personally would like new characters if we were gonna do a new campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a fresh, clean slate, right? There's no prejudices. There's no background that's holding people back or whatnot, right? Because if you were to change up the personality of Snow, right, his backstory kind of stays the same, and he's not entirely intertwined or interconnected with.
But the thing is, I'm not saying I keep the backstory either. That gets changed too.
I mean, at that point, you might as well play a new character then, right?
not particularly, right? Because you're recycling something and making something new out of it. Look, I get what you're saying, right? It would probably be cleaner to make a new character.
Yeah.
But I don't have this thing where Snow should always be this sort of character. Like I don't keep him in that sort of box, right? I feel like if I really wanted to, he could be anything else. He could be more. He could be something different.
I mean, at that point, if you're something different, this is a very Ship of Theseus, but you're someone else at that point, right?
Of course, he would be way different. He would be way different, and possibly he'd be like a different character. But you think of like the what if in the Marvel universe, right? What if like a superhero was like from an alternate dimension, right?
Okay.
It's still like it's still Spider-Man, but he's from the future, or he's from the noir universe, or whatever. It's like that. But I get it. You prefer new characters because, Ship of Theseus, you changed one part. How many parts do you need to change? And like, if you change all the parts, is it still the same? But I still feel like there's still potential there for that character.
Okay, that's fair. It's hard to not agree with you, because like there's a reason why the What If series is more a side thing, right? It's not part of the main franchise. It's a side project.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we were going to start a new one, I don't know, like it would kind of weigh on. I'm speaking for everyone else here, and if you guys think differently, let me know. But I feel like it would weigh on the other players' minds that this guy this Snow is like a remnant from the old campaign, right? Like he's still here, and it's hard to not connect the two. And I think it would. I don't know. It would be hard to tell, like, unless we actually do it. But
yeah, it's also easy to say that now because we haven't started yet.
Yeah.
That's true. It might be a problem, at the start of the campaign, but I feel like people will start to look past it, and they might even just, as the old Snow gets further and further back in time, it will go further to the back of their minds, and the new Snow will be like what they see, right?
Okay. If we were gonna do a new campaign, do you think it would be better if it would be in like an alternate universe, or like in the future, or in the past, or? Okay,
that really depends on what you want to do.
It's hard to find a way canonically for Snow to still be an actual character, right?
Well, my idea, if we were going to start a new campaign, we're just going to scrap the timeline, right? It'll just be a brand new timeline.
Yeah.
So we don't have to deal with all this canon bullshit. He stepped through a portal. Now he's different now.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so it's just completely so it is like alternate universe, like not
exactly.
Like,
yes.
There's no connection between the two.
That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah,
okay.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay. Do you think that? So if we go down this path, right? If we go down the new campaign path, and we make new Snow, do you think that we lose all potential to ever come back to Axia as a revivification and to complete that story arc?
Yeah, I think.
Does that nail the coffin?
It would look. It depends on this, right? If we make the new campaign and it's way more fun, right? Like just ideal scenario, wishful thinking. It's like we solved all the issues, and it's like it's fun. The party's like super close and it's genuine, and we're having all these fun moments, and like they happen a lot and often, and it's so good, right? And then all of a sudden, we go back to Axia for whatever reason. It'd be fucked. Don't you reckon?
I do.
It'd just be no one would. I doubt anyone would agree they would ever go back, right? It's like, this is so good, why would you ever want to go back?
I can see that. As I can't see that happening. I can absolutely see that happening. All right, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think this is rich for me saying this, trying to like argue to like, you know, trying to argue that rewriting an old character is viable, which I think it is, right? But, you know, worse comes to worse, people, you know, can't separate old snow from the new snow, then yes, I can go back and look at a new character, like a brand new character, right? I'm still open to that. I'm still open to that. But I want to try this. I would like to try this. This is a trial phase for a lot of us.
Uh-huh.
And I think also, Matt has told me in the past that he hates writing character backstories, new character backstories, right?
Okay.
And I think for him, he loves Tokul. Right? And if he had the choice, he'd probably play Tokul again, except it'll be Bokul.
It'll actually be Bokul, huh?
Yeah, it'll be Bokul the Tokul or something like that. And he's red, you know?
Okay.
And he's red. So I might not be alone. But Matt, feel free to just throw me under the bus if that you don't agree with that.
Yeah, we need some genuine we need some actual comments and like people replying to this. Like, would it be a problem if Snow and Tokul came back as other characters in a new campaign if we go down that path?
Yeah.
Let us know. Going back to what you just said, right? That if it does turn out that the new one is the shit, it's the hot stuff. It's Liddy, you know. It's great.
Yeah.
It's Yeet, you know.
Yeah.
You don't want to see the end of the story of Axia. Like you don't care. Like you don't nothing. No. There's no. You don't feel.
I know you're trying to get some like sympathy points here, but
you don't feel anything.
If the new campaign is so much better, right?
You're curious
it's
about like what's going on?
It's like going back to an unfinished drawing that you started when you were 6 years old. It's fucking garbage, right?
Oh shit!
Oh,
that's fucked up.
Sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
Oh,
I didn't mean to throw such a fucking nuclear bomb at you. Oh my god! No! I'm sorry.
Shit! Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be quiet. I'm sorry. I'll
sorry.
lay in my radioactive fucking coffin.
I didn't mean it that was strictly confined to the metaphor that I was going for, right? I was going for the simile. It was confined to the simile, right? I was confined to the simile.
He ain't joking. Jesus Christ!
Hey, wait a second. I mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that.
I'm dead.
Anyway, but like you'd be so invested in the new campaign, right? Or think of it this way. This is a better one. You start an RPG. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You put stat points everywhere, unoptimized as fuck. And then you're like, okay, oh, this is what you're supposed to do, right? You get to a certain point in the game. It might be just like 25% of the way through. Oh, this is what you're supposed to do. So you start again from scratch. This time you specialize. This time you pick the skills that matter or like are more effective, and it's way more fun. You're having way more fun now. Would you ever go back to the unoptimized piece of crap that you made on your first run?
You're saying a lot of words, but all I hear is you wrapping bandages around my wounds. Okay, Jesus.
But do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand the metaphor, right?
Yeah.
And this obviously is on me for not creating a compelling enough campaign or one where you're invested enough to, regardless of the party dynamics, to continue playing, right? And obviously, there's a lot of stuff I would like to fix if we were going in the direction of campaign 2. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of story beats. There's a lot of parts where I've ridden myself into corners, which are mistakes that I still regret to this day. Like there's a lot of stuff that I regret doing or saying, just for story wise. And those are great mistakes to learn from. Look, I do see where you're coming from.
Look, and it's not to say that it's all been for naught, right? Like, because it's the first try, it's the first campaign that you ran, and it's been running for a long time, and a lot of issues that have come up, we've put a bandage on it, and it's kind of it's kind of looking like what a jury rig job at this point, right?
Okay.
And for a lot of us, it's our first experience with D&D, like real D&D, right? And apologies, AK, that we are talking about
this is fucked up.
Like,
AK,
when you're like, but this has happened before. This is the trend for our campaign. Lewis joins our first new party member ever, right? Outside the OG3, Rainier, rest in peace. Outside, and he plays 2 sessions. We go on hiatus for a year.
Yep.
For like a whole year, right? So he gets to play Storm, which he paid a $50 colored mini for 2 sessions, and then that's it. We fucked him. We fucked him, right? And then now AK, right? Now AK, he's having a lot of fun because he's in a group that he enjoys, and it's an actual campaign that everyone's taking seriously. And now we fucked it. And he said, I remember him saying in the thread, like, oh, don't you think we're thinking too hard into this, right? And I thought about it for a moment, but I'm like, damn, I don't want to seem like a total, like, I don't want to feel like a total elitist, but like, hell yeah, we totally have to think this deep about it, because they're like, we're seeing like, we're like opening the wound, right? We're opening the can of worms that has been sealed for so long, and unfortunately, he's been a sweet summer child. He's just joined. He hasn't seen the extent of what we had to go through. The horrors of war. Exactly. But yeah, I don't mean to gatekeep you, AK. I definitely see where you're coming from. You're having a lot of fun, and I get that. But you just joined. It's all fresh to you. Everything's new. I think if the roles were swapped, I'd probably be the same way as well. Right?
Yeah.
I get it. But hopefully, with this revamp, right? With this revamp, it will be better. It'll be even better, right? And you're lucky because you just joined and you get to be a part of that too.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
You're not as invested as everyone else is, right? So that
no, I think he's pretty invested, but it's just we fucked him. We fucked him by
so like now, like
this conversation.
instead of doing this like 20 sessions later, it's better we do it now, right?
Yeah.
While it's fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the culmination of almost 3 years, no, over 3 years of playing D&D and RPGs in general. So I think, yes, definitely this conversation is warranted, and we definitely need to be thinking about what's fun about this entire experience, like critically, right? So yeah, I'm sorry, AK. I know you want to play Axia. I know you're having a lot of fun, but it needs to happen. I think it needs to happen.
Okay.
Anyway, what were we talking about? What were we talking about before?
I don't know. After you just fucking dropped a nuke on me.
Oh, that's right. You said, will we go back to Axia? And yeah, I think it would be highly unlikely that anyone, in an ideal world, right? Like that's in an ideal setting. We could start the new campaign and it's just total dog shit, right? Like no one's having fun. We just go back to Axia and we just sweep that under the rug.
Pretend it never happened. But yes, I get it now. In an ideal world, in the best case scenario, we stick up our 6-year-old's drawing onto the fridge and we forget about it, right? Yeah. We focus on the new stuff, and yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, right? Yeah. But obviously, campaign 2 is only one of the options that
it's the last option.
It's seeming like the best option right now. The more we talk about it, the more
it's very enticing. It's very enticing. Anyway, let's go to option/symptom 4, right? Soft reboot of the campaign / characters. Oh, sorry. You asked a question before about if we were to go down the new campaign route, would you what would I prefer, like setting wise, right?
Oh, yeah.
And in my head, like when we were still discussing like a reboot, I think Axia could still be there. Obviously, you can make the changes that you want to make. I think a long time ago you said, "Oh, I wish I could have done more high fantasy stuff." Now you can do high fantasy stuff. This is your chance.
Now is the chance.
It's not gonna be weird, right? It's not gonna feel like forced or anything like that, or shoehorned in. So, like, obviously, and there's a lot of work done in the setting. Namely, Ubania for one. Ubania has a lot of work done into it. I think Ubania is like the most fleshed out faction / culture in the entire game.
3 people have written about it.
Yeah. Well, I've written about it, you've written about it, and Aiden's written about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right when, like, you guys said that obviously none of this setting is going anywhere, right? It still exists in the void, in the atmosphere of the world, or whatever, the fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
But it is sad to see it go if we do leave behind, and I think if we do start a new campaign, we're not coming back to Axia. Right? I don't think...
So you feel like you would just start a brand new world, just from scratch?
Maybe not
world,
world, but probably continent, right? Probably be a different continent.
Different continent? So Axia is still technically canon?
It is, but
possibly different?
Yeah, it's still like canon, but it's somewhere else.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. So that leads me into this question, right? Which I tried to ask you before the podcast, but of course you stopped me. It's like, hey, content, right? This is
yes, the content question.
Do you have wafts of ideas floating in your head of what it could be right now? Like, what does campaign 2 look like in terms of like the DM side, like setting, plots, that sort of thing? What's the sort of things you looking to try, right?
So, as you know, I have been playing a lot of Pathfinder, right? A lot of Pathfinder Kingmaker. I just finished that, and I'm starting to play Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous.
Yep.
And in these games, there's a lot of world building, right? Like, you can click on something, and it's like it opens up this encyclopedia, and like in every conversation, there's like these words that are in like different colors. You can mouse over the word, and it gives you like a fucking page of information about this place that you're never gonna see. Like, you're never gonna see in this game, right? But it's there. And I was reading through, and I was like, fuck, some of these places are like fucking nice, right? There's like a whole continent, or like a whole country where for some reason magic just doesn't work, right? And so like these, I think it's a race of gnomes or something. They have to figure out a different way to survive, and they all they do is they use like machinery, they use inventions. They've already invented like golems and guns and shit, and they're doing fine. They're like a trade center of this world, and people talk about this massive capital city of the entire world. That's this massive like metropolis and stuff, but you're never gonna see that shit. That's so far away. But it, like
Ravnica, like the country is the city.
Yeah, it's like this. It's fucking huge. Like it's like the world, like the fucking trade center, like the middle of the whole world. And like there's so many cool spots. Like like currently in the campaign I'm playing, there's this place called the Worldbuilder, right? And it's this massive ravine, or I guess ravine is the right word. That's kind of like connected to hell, or like the abyss, and like every often these demons crawl out, and there's this like kingdom that surrounds the whole ravine, and they have these giant crystals that stop the demons from escaping, and then every so often they go on these crusades against the demons, and it's fucking lit, right? Like the whole world is great. And I don't know, if we were going to start a new campaign, I feel like I would take probably like a lot of time off just to write, because I don't know, I want to build the world again, right? I want to build the new setting again.
Yeah. And you've had you've had a lot of time to think about this stuff, and like, just playing the Axia campaign, right?
Yeah, because
a lot of like when we first started, obviously, it was like that Wallace and Gromit scene where Gromit is just like placing tracks down when he's on the toy train.
Yeah, like
that's what it was like.
I built the rest of the world after we already started playing, right?
Yeah.
I remember it was like 3 years ago where I finished drawing the map of Axian continent, and still I never actually drew the Ivory Vale or the ancient jungles, and I barely got a good idea of what I wanted the Alhadaran desert to look like. Yeah, it's it's since then and now, I have done a lot more reading. Like before then, I didn't really read that like many fantasy books, or like the most would be like Lord of the Rings, right? You watch Lord of the Rings, you play some fantasy games, whatnot, and that's mostly in like the Japanese genre. It's not traditional fantasy.
Yeah.
But between then and now, I've read a lot of different books, and like there's a lot of ideas that I would like to what's the word, add or mix, implement into a new setting. But yeah, it would take a while to put it all together. So I don't know. I feel like if we're going down campaign 2 path, I'd take like at least maybe like a month break where I just
a month. Wow, that's a lot shorter than I thought you would take. I thought you'd like
4 weeks. That's pretty long.
I know that's pretty long, but like I feel like if you were going to undertake, writing a world, right?
I mean, not a whole fucking world, but like like enough for it to build a campaign on, right? Like a foundation enough to build a campaign on.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm saying that's good because we don't have to wait as long. But I was thinking like realistically, if he was going to undertake like such a huge project like writing,
that would take a very long time.
Yeah, it would take like I'd say at least 3 months, right? At least. Or
and
6
that's
months.
like full time as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think I have the capabilities to create a whole fucking setting, like to the detail, right? To the tiniest details.
Yeah. Obviously, no one's expecting you to do that. But even doing the broad strokes is a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's something I enjoy, but I don't think I'd be able to go all the way. Plus, it is something you work on while you're also DMing, right? And while you're also playing. So,
yeah.
This is the Wallace and Gromit train track thing, regardless of how long it takes to build the world. But
Here's another question for you. Right? So, obviously, you're going to do the majority of the writing. What is your stance now going to campaign 2 about players writing stuff about the real world?
Has it had an actual influence on the Axia campaign? The stuff you guys have written?
In small ways, in very small ways. Like, obviously, you would take stuff from the stuff we had written, and put it in. I don't think a lot of heavy Ubanian stuff has made it into the Axian campaign.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm gonna say mostly no.
Okay. My next question for you would be: do you enjoy that kind of stuff?
Do we enjoy writing that sort of thing?
Yeah.
It's a tricky question. Yes and no. Yes, because like it's fun just to write about those things, right? And go wild with that sort of thing and create your own world. But no, in the sense that one, it might not have any sort of significant bearing on the campaign, because you don't use it, or there's no spot for it to be used in the campaign. And obviously, if it does get used, like if we were ever going to go to the Crescent Isles, you would have to add on to the stuff there, right? Like you would write your own stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the vision might not match, right? And you could be disappointed that the vision doesn't match your own vision, right? Like, exactly. Like, I know if we were going to go to the Crescent Isles, you would have to start writing stuff, and I would have to accept that it would be different from how I envision it.
Yeah.
So there's that, which is like the bad side of it, right? But I liked writing that stuff because it gave meat to the backstory of Snow, right? Yeah. It made me feel like that was a part of the world, like he was a part of the world for my own, like just for my own peace of mind.
Yeah. So if I were to create a setting, again, would you, if you were making a new character, would you choose somewhere within the setting that already exists, and use that as a backstory, or would you rather create something on your own, again, like you did with the Crescent Isles? What would you prefer?
It depends on like the vision of the character, like the fantasy of the character you're going for. I mean, at the time, I really wanted to play like a samurai character, and I didn't see like a place where, like, at least in the established Axia, where that could be fulfilled. I mean, because there was basically nothing at the time, so I just made my own thing because there wasn't anything there, right?
Yeah.
But in the new campaign, I might have the privilege of, like, you might make a quick campaign document, like a primer, saying like, here's all the things, slight description of each place, you know, this is what the culture is like, yada yada yada, right?
Yeah.
I can, like, that might, like, spark my inspiration for, like, oh, if I was to make a character from this place, like, what would he be like, you know, something like that, right? And same could happen with, like, quote unquote new Snow, right? He doesn't have to be Japanese sword swinging dude anymore. He could be like an Arabian style, like, scimitar wielding camel rider, right? But he still retains that, like, roguish acrobatics to him. Something like that.
Going back to the question you asked, then, would I have players write their own parts of the world?
Mm-hmm.
I think I would, but the places they write, similar to Axia, probably won't have that big of an impact, right?
Mm-hmm. Like completely new places, right? That aren't explored.
It's hard, right? Because we never got to the point. For example, I worked with Matt a lot to create the Ivory Veil, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we never actually got to go there. Oh well, we haven't.
Well, there was there was an intention to go to these places, right?
Yeah.
So, like, let's not just say that, like, they, like, don't have a big impact, because they could have.
Yeah,
they could have.
So like, they just haven't yet, right?
Yeah.
So we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to answer the question because it hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah, true.
We haven't seen the ramifications of you guys also having a part in building the world. We haven't had to go to Ubania in the Axian campaign. We haven't had to go to the Ivory Veil. We haven't even gone to the ancient jungle yet, right? And that kind of goes back to the mistakes I made when I first started DMing the Axia campaign. I kind of wrote myself into this hole where you guys are sort of railroaded into going to specific places that honestly you guys, or at least from my perspective, aren't that invested in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Underdark, it's like, I don't think anybody actually wanted to go down there, right? Like it's just part of the story.
Yeah.
Obviously there was, I don't know if I'm fucking pulling words out of my ass, but I feel like you guys had some sort of attachment to Huria, or at least some of its inhabitants, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was something I wrote on my own and didn't have any influence from any other players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of worked well. So that's the opposite side where it's just me writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think if players really wanted to, and they wanted to carve out their own setting into a new world, I think I'd be completely fine with that, to be honest. I mean, that's how I'd answer that question.
Would it be even more preferable that they, like, built onto places that you know, have made but haven't put a lot of detail in? Would that also be okay?
It's hard to talk about in a vacuum, right? Because if this were actually to go down, I'd be like, well, we would talk about it, right? And you'd be like, hey, I want to create this setting where it has like a bunch of ninjas, and I'd be like, oh, there's this place in the corner of this X country where they have somewhat of a similar setting. Do you want to put it there, right? So it just really depends on, like, what we're talking about, the context wise. I think actually now that I think about it more, I don't know if I would focus that much on the world building as much, because I feel like when I first started I focused on it too much, and I didn't actually put enough thought into a compelling narrative that's set within said world.
Well, you see,
this goes back to sorry, go.
I feel like that was, like, the problem, right? This is, like, part of the problem, right? Because we were too focused on this bigger narrative, right?
Yeah.
And changing the tone might change the focus on, like, how prevalent that main narrative is, like how demanding that main narrative for the player's attention.
Yeah.
And if you focus more on, like, the world building part of it, maybe that was like, maybe that is key, like over the narrative.
Sorry, could you?
That makes sense.
Could you say that again? Like in a way that I understand.
What am I trying to say? Like, I feel like for me, and I can't speak for everyone else, a lot of the fun playing Axia and wanting to, like, and I always want to, like, go to new places and just see what's up, like, see what's there, right? Because you hear so much about it from the NPCs and stuff, and reading in books or whatever, that you want to explore, right?
Yeah.
And exploration has an innate satisfaction in and of itself, especially in video games. It's like I feel like 70% of the reason why Skyrim is so successful as a video game.
Yeah, it's one of the pillars of D&D, exploration.
Go anywhere, do anything, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So look, yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know how hard you're focusing on the world building. Like what examples would you say, like, you kind of tunnel visioned?
Because I feel like the theory, at least my previous theory of going into DMing this campaign, right, was that as long as there is a sufficient world for you guys to explore, their narrative will sort of write itself.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
This is what, like, that's sort of what I'm getting at.
And I feel like it hasn't necessarily been the case, right?
Okay.
I feel like there has to be something more. There has to be at least a compelling story, and this is my preference, right? I like the compelling story. I like there to be an overarching, narrative for you guys to tap into, and that's not necessarily the case for stuff like Pirates, where it's very episodic, and obviously there is an overarching plot, but it doesn't really play into it that much, right? Like the characters aren't as invested into that.
Yeah, but having said that, bringing up Pirates, there's like the world building's all over the place. Like it's set like 90 years in the future in Axia, but off the coast somewhere.
Yeah, on the coast,
but
on
like
some islands.
There, bunch of islands. There's the world building's pretty sparse, but it's still fun. So I might be wrong in saying that, like, world building plays a big part of it, like exploring plays a big part of it.
Yeah, again, it just goes back to what kind of campaign you want, right?
Yeah.
And this is something we really need to nail this time, or at least improve on this time in session 0, where we talk about what we truly want out of a campaign, instead of just kind of skipping over it like we did last time. So
in terms of session 0, right?
Yeah, in terms of session 0.
Yeah.
We got to nail what we want.
Okay. Well, look, let's do another call out, right? Another call out, right? But not to comment to everyone, the party who's listening. Have a think about, okay, like what do you actually want out of a campaign, right? You think about it hard, and don't just say, oh, more combat, more roleplay, more this, more that. Be specific.
Yeah.
Be very specific about what you want.
Don't just say I want to have fun. As long as we get to play, I'm having fun.
As long as I
that's the fake answer I use. You're not allowed to use that.
As long as it's good. Like, how is that helpful? Not helpful at all.
Yeah.
But actually think about, like, can we give them an example? What can we give them as an example to help them out?
Oh,
it's
God.
hard, right?
It is hard.
It's a hard question.
It's definitely something you need to think about, obviously.
We dump that on them. Expect them to give us something.
We're getting put on the spot, right? But they get some time to think about it, right? They get to write it down in text. Like, obviously we've already gone through some criticisms we have, right? Like, some don't like the tone we have, or some don't think the tone we have encourages a good time. Like, some think that it's too serious, they're not going to have as much fun as they could. I think that our characters, they don't have the same synergy, right? There's not the same vibe as Pirates do. It's stuff like that. If they think of anything else, please let us know. Please.
Yeah, maybe think of it in terms of, like, the possible, causes of the problem that we've brought up. Like, change of environment. Okay, like, if you think environment has been an issue in the campaign, what kind of environments would you like to see? What kind of places would you like to explore? The tone, obviously, we've gone over that 1,000,001 times, but, like, what kind of tone do you want to see? Like, just as an example, right?
Yeah.
Like, lighter tone, darker tone, blah, 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 blah. make backstories more detailed. Okay, how do you make backstories more detailed? Do you give the DM more NPCs to work with? Do you make the backstory longer? Do you make it into time with other players? Stuff like that. Soft reboot of the characters or new characters. Okay, how do you think the new characters should lean towards in order to make a party more fun or something like that? That's the sort of stuff you think about when you want something, like when you think about what you want out of the new campaign.
I'm actually very curious to see if people share my opinion on the overarching story versus an episodic take.
Get in the comments.
Because maybe that might be the issue, right? Where I personally as a DM am so focused on this overarching campaign and tying up all these loose ends that we're not having the most amount of fun we could be. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to explain, right?
And the question is, what do you want, right? Not what could be changed. What do you want, you personally?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There was one more option we wanted. Last one.
Before campaign 2, which is the last one, but time skip. Time skip, which is.
Don't think this would work.
Yeah, I think when Lachlan brought it up, when I heard it from Lachlan the first time, it was very enticing, right? But this was before we started talking about all the other stuff, especially campaign 2, which I think Lockie's more on board with now.
Yeah, I think he is more on the campaign 2 field team.
Yeah, I think if we really wanted to hold on to the current Axia timeline and / canon, like that would possibly be a good way to go about it, right? To canonize the reboot. But I'm on the same side as you are. But I thinking now, hindsight's 2020. This probably would not work. Like if we were to choose this over campaign 2, this probably would not be as fun.
Yeah.
Or work.
Like before we said, it's like a stopgap measure, right? We're just jerry rigging the whole shit together, right? We're just bandaging the festering wound, right? It's not actually fixing the root of the problem. It's just
it's funny. It's funny, right? We started this conversation last week, and we're now realizing like we kind of made a monstrosity out of Axia. Like we kind of took a step back and looked at Axia like, hey, this is kind of fucked.
I mean, AK could be right. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe we are just overthinking it, you know?
Do you really think that? No, you don't. Yeah. I thought so.
Maybe?
I thought so.
Maybe? I mean, look, some people are just content with showing up every week and getting to play a character, and that's enough for them, right? Like,
of course, of course there are people
AK
like
for
that.
maybe Matt. Maybe they just have fun showing up, and that's it for them, right?
Of course,
but I think for me and you,
yeah,
and for some other people like Lewis and Lachlan, maybe Aiden, maybe now that's not enough, right? It's not enough.
Yeah, especially now that we're talking about it out in the open. It's one thing to think about it; it's another thing to actually talk about it. And Matt and AK, might still be content with whatever. Like continuing the campaign, and I think the last podcast I said we could keep playing Axia and I'd be fine with it. But now that we're like swirling around all these ideas,
he's no longer fine with it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be fine with it anymore. Like if we just blueboard ourselves and like, you know what, if you said or some most of the party said, you know what, screw this is too much work, let's just go back to Axia as is. I would feel blueboard.
I don't think you can do it.
Like, right? Like, you just think, like, what could have been, right?
I mean, in the scenario that this doesn't pan out the way we expect it to, I don't think it would end up with us going back to Axia. I think it would just be us trying something new again. Like, maybe a new campaign, maybe a new DM. Like, I don't think it would end up going back to Axia.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to bring up as well. Like, of course, we don't have to put so much pressure on this first attempt of a...
Yeah, it's not going to be perfect.
Restart. Right? It's probably not going to be perfect. We're probably gonna fuck up a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And the option is there is always an option for us to have another go at it, right? Because we can do whatever the fuck we want. It's our game.
Damn right. I have a question. In the scenario that we do agree to go along the route of a campaign 2, and it does seem to be more likely the more we talk about it. Would you like to see Axia completely wrapped up? And not like left on a cliffhanger, blue ball ending?
No. I feel like doing that for the sake of closure. Like, I get sometimes people want a good ending, but if the greener pastures is just a step away, I'm gonna jump the fence, right? And I'm not looking back.
What a metaphor. What a metaphor. That's not as... Do you think... Fuck. I mean that in the next... So, we're ending the Huria arc, right? Right,
Yeah.
that's a given. We're ending the Huria arc. That's where we're going to take a break, we're going to take a step back, and we're going to think about what we actually want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if time permitted, or if the scenario permitted, that within those 4 sessions, there is a case where things do wrap up semi-nicely for at least for the story arc, for the Hesseldane story arc in general? Do you think that would be a good place to stop, and so we can give at least a somewhat fair goodbye to the Axia campaign?
Possibly. But as I just said, I think I would prefer the sooner that we get this new thing.
I'm saying that it's going to happen within the 4 sessions. It's not going to take any longer than finishing the Huria arc would.
Oh, would that be just a good stop in general, right? Like, objectively? Are you asking objectively?
Yeah.
For the entire campaign? You say, like, for the entire time, like, would that be satisfactory enough for, like, the ending of an entire campaign?
Would it be objectively better than just straight up stopping?
No, I don't think so.
If in the scenario that it doesn't feel forced?
Possibly, but then how do you do that, right?
I've thought about this a lot, and there are ways.
Possibly, right? Possibly. But for a stopping point for an entire campaign,
I mean, obviously there's loose ends, right?
Look,
like we're never gonna.
There's so much riding on that, right? For that to be like the end of the campaign. Like, even if it's just unceremonious, like if it just ends, you know, it's wrapped up, but it's just like, oh, okay, well, it's done now. What's next? You know, I don't know. I feel like there is a lot of investment now, but now that I feel like I'm even more invested in the next thing. You know when you, like, I'm gonna go into another metaphor here. You know when you like a girl,
Okay.
and like, you know it's not gonna work, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna stop liking this girl, but you can't stop liking this. You can't stop liking this girl. But then there's another girl that comes along, and you're like, oh, I like her.
Fuck the other girl.
I like her, and then suddenly it's way easier. It's way easier to forget the first girl. It's like that for me right now.
I don't even know what to say to that metaphor.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense though? Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Like, I'm moving on. I'm moving on. That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying that it doesn't really matter how Axia ends?
To me, I have no qualms. If we just stop it right here and now, fair. Fine. I'm excited for the next thing. I'm looking forward to the next thing.
Man, at this point you're already cemented campaign 2 as the sole thing we're doing. Like we're already saying goodbyes to Axia.
I'm just excited for the potential for, like, playing D&T to be much more fun, and like to enjoy it with, you know, my friends. And obviously, this is my opinion. I know there's at least gonna be one of you fuckers out there that's gonna be like, no, we gotta wrap it up, right? My heart can't take it.
That's
right?
me. That's me. That's me.
But
Look.
for me, if we stopped right here and you said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna start writing right now, I'll be like, hell yeah, hi, let's go.
Shit.
I'll be on board.
Alright, okay. Aiden, say goodbye to Ravana. AK, say goodbye to Kenji. Everyone say goodbye to your old characters. Campaign 2
don't, right? Or
is
don't,
dead.
right?
Campaign 2
Or
is,
don't, right?
Campaign 1's dead.
You could rewrite the characters, or you could, you could still use the characters, right? If you feel like there's potential. And I think that both of them said that those two specific characters could develop either way because they're still fairly new characters.
They're still new characters. There's a lot of room for development.
So,
okay, so from our conversation, there are two things that I feel are necessary, and that we should get done, or that need to be completed before we even think about jumping into campaign 2, right? And the first thing is a session 0, 3.0.
Yep.
Right, where we talk about our expectations, and we nail that, and we get what we find the root of what we really actually want to do, right? And I don't want anybody to be like, oh yeah, as long as everyone's having fun, I'm having fun. No. We need everybody's opinion on what is
going back
fun for
like
them.
specifically, right? Yeah. Matt, looking at you, because he didn't say
call him out.
anything.
Call him out.
He didn't say anything, and then he said during the conversation, "I'm fine with that, whatever." What do you want, Matt? What do you want? What do you desire?
Oh, let him
Tell
know.
me what your heart desires.
Let him know.
Let us know. Let us know.
And number 2. What the fuck was number 2?
Was it just to rewrite the Oh wait, that's a part of session 0, right?
Oh wait, no. Number 2 is are we comfortable with reforming our old characters if we were to start a new campaign into the new characters of the new campaign? And make sure everybody's on board with the final decision for that, right?
And I'm open to be convinced. Even though I'm pro grandfathering in our old characters in a new way. I'm open.
It's like a new game plus. So if you finish the first one, you import your old character.
That's what I'm saying, right? Your first run, is you got through the first run, but it's like, oh, there was some stuff I could optimize more, and then new game plus, you have all your shit now.
I personally never do new game pluses.
No, I never, now from when I was a kid, I used to play games over and over and over, the
Ratchet and
campaigns.
Clank.
I remember playing Halo 3 dozens of times, the campaign, right? Now I can barely sit through the first run. If it doesn't grip me, even if it grips me, I play it once and I'm like, oh, that's great. But I play this and then even if I was like, oh, that's so good, I want to play it again. Then I start playing again. I get 2-3 levels in and then I stop. Yeah,
I did that with Ghost of Tsushima. I was like, this is so good, I'm gonna play it again. I started playing again. I was like, oh, it's alright. I could be doing other things,
Yeah, I don't know if it's that I'm an adult now and I think differently, or my attention span is just fucked, right?
It's probably the latter, to be honest.
Yeah, probably more the latter. But I want to say that I'm matured.
Okay, we'll go with that. We grew up. I actually have a question. If we were to start campaign 2, right?
Yeah.
What level would you like to start on?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. The first answer that comes to mind is level 10. We just start off where we left off. Level 10.
Okay.
Right? And then we just go from there. But obviously, a lot of people are going to be playing new classes and new characters and stuff like that. Looking at you, Lewis and Lucky. They might want to try something new. And they might need time to, settle in. But having said that, we've thrown players in the deep end. Aiden, AK, AK who has not a lot of experience with D&D. He had 4 sessions. Well. Yeah, even Lucky, actually. Which was weird, right? Because when they first joined the campaign, I thought oh, these guys are veterans, right? They must have played heaps. But no, I've played more. I think I've played more than the both of them.
You're the nerd.
And I think I'm disappointed that I thought that they were my senpais, but I'm really the senpai.
You're the old man.
By a fucking lot.
Yup.
By a lot. But that's fine. But back to what I was getting at, right? I'm going a lot of tangents today. Back to what I was getting at.
More tangents.
we've thrown them into the deep end in terms of like, you know, high level characters and stuff like that, and it's been okay. You know, it's been okay. So, I feel like level 10 is on the table, but if I had to, you know, bring it back a little bit, another obvious answer is level 5. I feel like level 5 is like you've got most of your main powers, at least for D&D. Oh shit, that's another. I'm thinking of another question now that I'm gonna ask you, but I'll ask it after this if I remember.
Okay.
Another, like, you know, you get stuck in the fun, right? You skip the resource gathering phase and you go straight into like the battles and stuff, right?
Okay.
You right into the fun part. So level 5, maybe, if we wanted to like have weaker characters and stuff like that. But if we wanted to start purely from scratch, we could go like level 3, level 1.
No.
Not level 1? You're
No.
never going to back to level 1?
No one. If I'm ever DMing a campaign, I'm never starting anybody at level 1. Fuck level 1. Level 1's stupid. You died at like one hit from like a goblin. That's dumb.
Okay, that's
dumb.
not fair because you threw like a level 5 mage
Look.
at us and threw fireball. Okay, don't say that like it's stressful to DM, right? You just threw the most
Look.
unbalanced shit at us at
Wizards at
level 1.
level 1 have like
it wasn't
7
our
HP.
fault. It wasn't our fault. He threw fireball. That's a 3rd level spell. At level 1, you vaporized half of us.
It's
in
the
that
best
first
3rd
prize.
level spell as well.
Of course, it's the best 3rd level spell.
Yeah, but level 1
to level 1,
level 1's dumb because like you're like 7 health. Anybody that crits you, especially with our rules, you're dead. You're dead, right? Like it's silly. It's too flip-floppy. It's too much. It's too dependent on luck. And I really don't like it. Like even when we first started, I didn't like it, which is why we started leveling up really fast. Like I think at the end of session 2, we're already level 2, and at like the end of session 4 or 5, we're already level 3, right?
Well, that's another option, right? If we were to start at a lower-ish level, let's say we start level 3, we could level up at a faster rate.
This is what I discussed with Lachlan actually. I think yesterday or the day before. If we were to start a new campaign, what levels we would start on, and what we both kind of agreed on, or at least what I think we agreed on, or at least what a good solution would be, is if we start it around level 3 or level 5, and we just level up rather exponentially faster than a normal campaign would be to get to at least to our old level 10 powers, right? It would just happen at a increased pace. I think that's a sort of solid solution. But the problem I have with I'll say this, and you guys can roast me for this opinion. I don't care. But I think that low-level campaigns are more fun than high-level campaigns. Or at least from a DM, at least from my standpoint.
Hey, this guy said he hated level 1. He just said he hated level 1. That's contradictory.
Low level, not fucking minuscule level campaigns, you know, like low level, like 3 to like 9,
Okay.
3 to 8.
Why,
right?
why do you think that? Why specifically
Because
do you think that?
when you level up, the threats that you face increase in power alongside you, right? So from level, I'd say like level 1 to 5, you're fighting something that could threaten, say, like a village or maybe like a small town, right? It's like, I don't know, like a band of orcs or something, right?
Yeah.
And from level 5 to 10, maybe something that could threaten maybe like a city or something, right? From 10 to 15, maybe a kingdom. From like 15 to 20, it's a fucking like city level, not city, like country level threats, right? And it just gets so fucking whack and out of hand. The amount of stuff that you need to account for as a DM, like, oh, this guy can just fucking teleport to a different continent or just go to a different plane, or like there's so much crazy shit that goes down that it's very hard to get something that sticks narrative wise. Like, well, it's so much easier in a concentrated environment to get something that's more compelling. At least from my perspective as a DM.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Okay, so this comes back to the question I thought of when I was talking about the other thing, right? D&D.
Yep.
As a system.
Yep.
Would you ever,
Oh.
and I'm not saying this is at all likely, would you ever consider changing to another system to better fit your fantasy or whatever? Like, you think your low level campaigns are fun because, you know, the scale is more believable, the fights are more deadly or more at stake, I feel like there are other systems that might cater to that more, and like you get that experience more consistently, right? And the character growth is not as crazy as D&D, right? Like you might start off as like a novice swordsman, don't know how to swing a sword, and then you get really good at swinging a sword, right? But that's not like you can slash a city in half. It's just like you just become a renowned swordsman,
Okay.
you know, and it's all like grounded, right? And I know there's probably some systems out there that account for something like that. And I'm not suggesting Pathfinder, because I think Pathfinder is also in the same vein of D&D is that it caters to
I was gonna talk about that,
heroic fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Which is like you get more beefier, quicker, and then eventually, like at high levels, you're like cracking planets like Vegeta style.
Yeah. You get the forbidden 10th level spells.
Yeah, like the power creep is insane, right? Just to throw another Dragon Ball criticism there. Like, you just got to keep upping the levels until it's just totally fucked.
Yeah. It's hard for me to answer the question because I don't really know enough about systems outside of D&D other than the ones we've played, stuff like Legend of the Five Rings, Lord of the Rings. Other than that, I really don't have any experience with any other systems, right? So it's really hard for me to answer this.
But I'm asking, would you consider it? That's what I'm asking. Would you consider like looking into other systems, seeing if that's something you like, and trying it out?
The biggest obstacle for me, if we were going to go down that route, is the amount of information that's available online that surrounds the subject, right? So if we were to pick something like a sort of niche system that isn't as popular, or obviously nothing's going to be as popular as D&D, it'd be very hard to find information on specific problems we run into. It'd be hard to find information on types of modules or different types of monsters or magic items and stuff like that.
That's true.
There is a sore lacking of information regarding like the lesser known stuff, and that's the biggest problem for me. And this kind of goes back to Pathfinder, right? And I think the biggest reason why Lewis in particular and kind of me are fans of Pathfinder, it's not really the robust system itself or the amount of flexibility you have in creating a character. It's just the amount of content that's already out there for Pathfinder, right? There's fucking libraries of books on Pathfinder, right? There's so much fucking shit you can do. And that's one of the main attractions. But I think with the way 5th edition is going, I kind of prefer it because new content's being released like every few months, right? There's always new shit coming out, and the community's alive and active. All the questions that could have been asked have already been asked. I don't know. I feel like for a system that's already has a well-built foundation, it's easier to play with. And I think that's the biggest obstacle with us ever going into a new system.
Of course. And D&D is in a very privileged position of being the most popular role-playing system in the world, right? And so, of course, it's going to have so much support and, fandom and community behind it, right? But having said that, if we continue with D&D, which will probably be likely to be the case, we will still have like similar issues in terms of like, namely combat, I think, in terms of D&D, and I don't think there's ever really a way to solve like the inherent design, like the way combat is designed in D&D. But of course, like, different types of combat might remedy this, like you said, easier combat, making combat less of a focus, something like that. Sorry, AK, know you love combat, but I can't empathize with you at all.
It's look, if there is a system out there that just fucking caters to every single one of our wishes, and it's like it's like the perfect match, then we'd look into it and we'd probably be like, oh, we'd set up the group chat, we'd ask, hey, what do you guys think of this, and we'd talk about it, right? But obviously I've done no research, but I don't know if there's anything out there.
out there.
Like that out there. Like that out there. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like also I'm just fucking lazy. I don't want to learn a new system, right? I'm like
also true. Also true.
We know so much about 5th edition that I don't want to learn something new.
There's a huge learning debt, and Lockie, he'd no longer be Lockie the lawyer if we went into a new system.
We'd all be fucking these brainless fools, right? Going back to combat, obviously, I think if we were to start a new campaign, there'd be some fundamental changes, right? At least I would like to implement some fundamental changes.
Okay.
We've said this before, but we always, for some reason, look at combat as a separate game from the role-playing aspect of D&D, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the reason why we never enjoy it is because it feels lifeless. It just feels like a really shitty minigame we have to go through in order to reach the next roleplay section, right?
Yep.
I feel like the better way to remedy something like this is to treat it as roleplay. So if we were to allow more scenarios in which characters can talk to each other in character, or characters can try to talk to the enemies in character, or do things that aren't necessarily within the realms of battle, like because we rarely interact with the environment when we play combat, right? And that's kind of on me as well for not adding enough things to interact with. Like, nobody goes over and flips a table to hide behind his cover. Nobody like drops the chandelier from the ceiling to stun an enemy, or something like that, right? I feel like all that adds into a more enjoyable combat experience, right?
Yeah,
and I feel like
it adds like a dynamism to it.
Yeah, if we encourage stuff like that, and if we encourage more roleplay, and stop treating combat as this mini game that we just kind of have to play for the sake of it, I feel like that could fix, or at least mend, some of the issues we have with it. I don't know. It's obviously something we need to work on.
Obviously, yeah. I know you've brought that argument
Yeah.
up. Now, I
I have
remember
before.
I remember in the Wild West days, OG3
The Wild
days,
West.
or maybe like when Lewis or Aiden joined, like after the hiatus, you said like, oh, you guys can just talk during combat. Like, your characters can just say whatever they want. Like, the conversations can go however long they want. But then that slowly changed as we were like, you know, looking more critically at like combat. And then suddenly, like, I remember there was times we would talk, or like some characters would try to roleplay it, and you're like, yeah, but you wouldn't have enough time to say that. Like,
Yeah, it's like it keeps changing, right?
yeah.
Right. I think like
I
when
wish there would be some more consistency. In
Yeah,
that
we need to put down the rules, write down the rules, keep it cement.
Yeah.
I think especially when we introduced Lachlan, who is very by the book rules type of guy, right?
Lockie the lawyer.
I feel like I think me and him share the same thing, where it's like, oh, it's very hard to stay roleplay focused when you think about these guys having full conversations within 6 seconds, right? It also takes you out of the immersion. So there has to be some kind of, I don't know, there has to be some kind of way to find the perfect balance between keeping it immersive but also keeping it roleplay. I don't know. It's something we should probably dedicate a whole fucking episode about, but who knows?
Yeah, but when you say like this, you know, integrating combat to be less of like a bump in the D&D experience and more like, you know, like more smooth, right?
Yeah.
Integrating it more in like part of the story, right?
Yep.
What was stopping you from putting that sort of thing in the combat, like for current Axia right now? Because you've said it a long time ago. I remember you brought up stuff like this a long time ago.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know why we never actually talked about this more in depth, and I think because it's just stuff we talk about, we'd never actually implement. You know? I feel like once we actually talk about it as a group instead of just us two, and we get everybody's opinion on it, then it becomes something that you can actually solidly implement without people complaining about it, right? Because if we just talk about it and then spring it on them in the next session, people are gonna be like, yo, what the fuck? But obviously, it also is on me just for not fucking implementing it at the time. So I don't know. I feel like this is also just a good opportunity to do that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you're writing some of that down so you don't forget.
I'm absolutely not writing any of that down. So
that's just staying in your brain, and then you forget about it, and then we just complain about.
Look, I'll just come back. I'll just come back to this podcast.
In like a year's time, I'll be complaining about combat yet again, and you'll be like, "Hey, combat should be more part of the D&D."
We should do it this way. we should do it this way, where we do more roleplay. But yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe we'll open up another thread about combat, and then that'll be a concrete thing we can look at.
Well, I think it could still be a part of the Axia, or I don't know if Axia.
Can we make a thread in a thread?
Expired? No, you can't. I checked.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but we'll talk about it in there.
Okay. It's been immortalized in the podcast for like the third time now.
Look.
Please comment, so Albert remembers he's not gonna write it down. He's crazy.
Once people listen to this, they'll be like, "Hey, where's the thread?" And I'll be like, "Oh shit, the thread!" And then we'll open the thread. And it'll be great. Like Aiden, I'm depending on you for this.
Yeah, comment. All right. Was there anything else?
I'm sure there are other things we can talk about, but I think this is a good place to cut it off for now, and we'll come back next week and talk more shit.
Okay, well, we're heading into the 30s with a new mindset. New us, right? Episode 30 was the start of the conversation. 31, right. We're getting really into it, like shit.
Yeah, new decade, new us,
yeah, new metaphors, new everything.
New bombs. All right, we'll catch you all next time. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys later.
Bye.